welcome to another episode of Design Under Influence, coming to you from the virtual world, from different places that we're located, but we all work for the same organization. We have the same passion. Our passion is to help you, the architecture, design, and engineering firms, do your best work while we, or they, my guys, and take care of IT. And the team today is the cream of the crop, the talent here. Harry and Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, this is the brain of the operation here at ArchIT. All we do is IT for architects. And today we're answering questions. We're not selling anything. We're not, trying to do anything outside of just giving you some help and some ideas on specific topic. Today is more on security. Last week we covered email security. There was a lot there. Very interesting show, by the way, guys. Thank you for that. This week we're talking single sign-on SSO. Mark, can you kind of lead us in and explain why architects, engineers, designers, or for that matter, anybody else, business, right? What's SSO and why would people think about it?
Yeah. So let's take a quick step back. 2FA. 2FA is you sign into any type of login. You get a text on your phone. The text has a code. You then enter the code in and you sign in. It's more secure than just having a username and password. Still flaws to it, though. Still ways that your phone number can get spoofed. There's still ways around that. It makes it a little less secure. Next step would be single sign-on. Single sign-on is, let's say you guys are in the Microsoft world. You have Office 365. You use Autodesk. You would sign into Autodesk with your Microsoft 365 credentials. That's single sign-on. You sort of link the back end. You tell Autodesk, hey, we want to use our Microsoft credentials. You tell Microsoft, we want to use our Autodesk credentials. And it will that's single sign-on. That's more secure. That allows for the single sign-on experience. You have very secure connections on the back end. And it just, one of the advantages, one password, one username password for both products. Awesome. Makes it a lot easier. Then you can take it another step further, also using single sign-on. This is more of a top level. Well, what if you have Autodesk, you have Adobe, you have your computer, you have your Microsoft account, and you want to lock all of those down, and you want to make those even more secure, but you don't want to have everyone talking to everyone. You just want to have one central thing talking to each one. There's products for that. Okta, Duo. Here at ArchIT, we use Duo. Okta's, you might have heard of Okta. That's another one. And basically what that does is you, in the Duo console or the Okta console, you link it out to all you spider web it out to all the applications that you sign into, and you have a centralized single sign-on. And that's great. It's a great tool. It makes one password. You can get what's called a push notification to your phone when you sign in. Basically, your phone, you get a little, notification. It says, hey, is this you trying to sign in? You open it up. It opens up the app, and you approve it or deny it. Gives you the location of where the sign-in's happening, the IP address, all the pertinent information. Super secure. That way, if you get something that's overseas and you're trying to sign in Idaho, you know that it's not you. You just don't accept it. They don't get in, no matter, even if they know your password. So it's a super secure way. And it's just a great tool. And ArchIT takes care of all the back end work. So when the user gets it, they just sign in, and it's that easy.
Perfect. Harry, you want to expand a little bit on the benefits? Like, why would company? So first of all, what's the percentage of? I just get a little survey. What's the percentage of customers you come across that use this single sign-on technology right now?
So right now, I'll probably say roughly 30%. That's just as much as I can think about. In terms of the idea of single sign-on itself, I think it's centered around the definition, the title, single sign-on. So in a sense, you're signing into one application, but then it's giving you access to other applications. So the idea there is you have the average company, the average architectural firms have about 5, 6, 7, 8 applications that they use when it comes down to Autodesk, Revit, Autodocs. So they could have different passwords that they use to sign into those applications. It could be quite cumbersome having to remember those passwords, having to individually sign into them when you need to use them. So what the idea behind single sign-on is you sign into this application, it verifies the user through, say, a strong password, multi-factor authentication. And then through that authentication, you are then granted access to other applications. So you don't have to remember the passwords to those apps or have to constantly log in. So in the sense of it's safer for you, it helps you with productivity. So it makes sense for the investment.
I'm also thinking of offboarding, right? Or onboarding. Does that simplify either for employees offboarding and onboarding?
Well, because your identity, the idea behind the infrastructure of building SSO is you centralize your identity provider behind one infrastructure. So whether you're using your email service, some people use their 365 Azure environment. Our Google customers use Google. We have some customers that use third-party identity providers like Duo or Okta. So it's about having a proper build to that environment, making sure that one provider, that one email provider, whether it's using the email service or whether you're using the third party, that one provider gives you access to your other applications.
It sounds to me though, and this is like on the surface, it sounds to me that, for example, if I have to offboard an employee, it's a lot easier for me to just revoke a single password to, say, Duo, versus having to, unwind a spider web, as Mark put it, of different applications. Am I right? Or am I wrong here? There's still more work involved.
No, that is correct. That's correct. You're hitting it right in the dot. So it makes it easier to offboard an employee. So instead of having to go through different applications to remove their account, to remove their access, you can just block their access from that single sign-on, and then they don't have access to their applications.
So it makes it a quicker offboarding. At the end of the day, the back end that us ArchIT would have to log in and work on the individual applications to like remove the user from there. But like Harry said, the user's offboarded, you immediately disable their account in one place and they have no access to anything right then and there, instead of having to log into everywhere to like block the access that way. So it does speed up the process to offboard someone from the end user perspective. You can immediately block everything right then and there.
Which is a benefit in itself. But you're still saying the IT team still needs to go in and make sure like the licenses are transferred or however extinguished or whatever. Got it. So one other thing, guys, let's talk about why people would not do it. To me, this sounds. I worked at other organizations that had it and that didn't. Why would people not do it? Like, why would it doesn't? We'll talk about cost in just a minute. Let's just set cost aside. What would prevent people from actually doing this for their organization?
In my experience, I think it's just change is scary to many people. People are just more comfortable with what they're used to. So if they're used to logging into Autotask and then logging into QuickBooks and then logging into the email, that's what they do every day. That's what they're comfortable with. So the idea of bringing in a new technology could be scary to them. But once they actually see the benefit of having to just authenticate to one app and then having access to other apps, how beneficial it is to both safety and productivity, it's a no-brainer. But the idea of change, in my case, has been the main holdback.
I think Harry hit it right on the head. The biggest thing is what they have currently works. And even though it might be cumbersome, once, after a month, 2 months, a year of doing it one way, you don't feel it's as cumbersome as it really is until you see the other way in the people we've brought from their traditional way over to these products. come back to us months later and are like, how did we not do this sooner? Like, this doesn't make, it's so easy now, you know? So that's, the change is the only thing.
And it goes without saying, security. This is the problem, man. We the business owners and people who run organizations and people who work in the organizations kind of don't think security is like, yeah, you kind of do the best practices to the best of your abilities, but you really don't emphasize, and that's where that opens up huge business risk. So I think that needs to be said. Like, security is would you say leveled up significantly with a single sign-on? Would you go as far as claim that?
Yeah, because for you to have a single identity provider, you just don't want to have users sign in there with just your password. So what we do in our case is we make sure that before you sign into that provider, you have two-factor authentication, piggyback into our conversation from last week. Mm-hmm. So you not only need to have a strong password, you need to have a second identity provider, a la a token code that gets sent to a device that you have in the physical possession. And only when you have passed those two steps can you then be granted access to that identity provider. So it's secure. The level of security that we add, that it adds to your infrastructure, is humongous. And then just saving you time from having to remember passwords, call your IT department to resolve a password issue. It saves you time, but it makes you productive, it makes you secure. It's a no-brainer, but the idea of change can be scary to some companies.
Yeah. What about, guys, what about cost? I'm not, I know you don't deal in that world as much, but you know what things cost about in terms of hours and implemented. Like, average company, 20, 25 people, Harry and Mark, what would be the kind of overall cost? Because I can kind of talk about the Duo cost. For example, Duo is the provider of a single sign-on. It's anywhere from $3 to $9 per user, depending on the level of access people are looking for. So that's definitely not cost prohibitive. It's actually good if you think about that's a security infrastructure investment. That's just right there, man. That's worth it. But what about the actual implementation, guys?
So the implementation can, depending on the complexity that you want to do and the level of security you want, it ranges. It's more of the initial configuration is where the cost is. Like you said, the monthly recurring costs that you said are negligible when it comes to long-term security. That's a moot point. That's easy to cover that. The cost does come up with when Harry or myself are configuring the back end and spending hours of setting up the back end so you're more secure and everything works the way it should, and setting it up correctly.
You mean, so is the cost of project that we're talking about for, like, let's say a 25-person firm, let's just peg it at that. Would you say 4 to 5, 10 hours of IT, of like project level IT work, or more or less?
It really depends on how many applications you want to secure. If you just want to secure like your office and your Autodesk, that's a little bit easier. But when you start wanting to secure your VPN connection, your computer, your terminal server, your Microsoft 365 or Google, your Autodesk, your Adobe, and QuickBooks, and you just keeps going on, that's when the costs can get larger because you have to individually secure each of those apps to the identity provider. So it really, a lot of times, I would say, Harry, in your experience too, when setting up like Duo, for instance, we usually start with, we secure their email first. We get that going, and then we slowly roll in the other applications later. So the initial setup is a little bit lower per hour wise. I think 10 to 15 hours is a little more, depending on how large, the larger the firm, could be up towards 15. I think would be a more realistic expectation.
Yeah, so that's whatever your IT provider charges you per hour for this level of pretty high level of project related work. So you can estimate if it's $200 an hour, 250, whatever, 150 times the 10 to 15 hours. That's what it's going to cost. But again, to me, this sounds like such a no-brainer. It's negligible compared to a bridge, right?
Yeah.
or getting your user credentials stolen, trying to recover stuff.
I mean, it's one data breach, can take one data penetration can literally network penetration can take your network down for days. What is the cost of that? Exponential compared to this, weeks even. So long term.
Okay, let's round this out with some drawbacks. There's got to be drawbacks for everything. So cost, we already talked about. There's some cost involved to it, although I think it's not not a significant burden to overcome. The other one is the change. Other drawbacks, guys, like clear technical side, or maybe from a more of a business side, drawbacks to single sign-on that you know of.
I would say in a rare case, where someone happens to bypass your multi-factor authentication to gain access to that single provider as you, then that user, in a sense, has access to the other applications. If that makes any sense. So the benefits that SSO gives you can also be a negative. But that's in the rare case that someone has your password and also has possession of your phone. So, which is very rare. But if someone was to hack you and has your phone and has your password and gains access to your single sign-on, theoretically, then they could have access to the other applications that are linked to your single sign-on. So that could be a value to the back.
And I'll be honest on that. In my time of doing IT with using third-party identity providers like the Duo and stuff, I've never seen a user get fully hacked like that. I haven't. I'm sure it's happened. I haven't seen it. So it is like Harry was very clear, a very rare case. Another downfall that I see that it can happen, or a drawback, is more on the having everything just under one identity provider, meaning that if the identity provider has an outage, just like Azure goes down, Microsoft goes down, you can lose access to everything. I'm just being honest that it's happened a couple times in the last couple of years where the identity provider that, like Duo, that we're using has a service outage. It happens. And then you're sort of locked out there from everywhere.
Is it for like a few minutes typically, or an hour, or are those prolonged?
It's usually about less than an hour, and then it's just like when Microsoft or Amazon, AWS has an outage, it slowly comes back. And like at first, maybe your entire team can't get in, and then all of a sudden your colleague can and you can't, and it slowly comes back. That's happened a couple times. I've seen it happen with the products we use and the other tools that are the same that we don't use, but I've seen it happen with them too. So that happens. There's outages everywhere, no matter what service you use. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys' candor and your knowledge and your willingness to share. It's not easy. People kind of trivialize this, but it's not easy to get up in front of the camera and speak your mind and share your expertise. So I think on behalf of viewers and the people who actually benefit from these, I want to say thank you to both of you for taking the time. That's not what you do. You need to get in there and fix things, build SSOs, whatever it is that you do in your day-to-day stuff. So we appreciate it. I think at the end of the day is, same concept as we kind of flushed it out last week is, look, it's cabin in the woods versus bank vault. Yeah, banks can get robbed. Yeah, it happens. But what is your probability? Cabin in the woods, if you keep your business servers and all your secrets, cabin in the woods or trailer in the woods versus bank vault, it's probabilities. It's all that. So, our job is to secure your business, give you the advice you need, and it's up to you to execute. Harry, any parting words of wisdom?
Not for me, but I would say it's in general, SSO is something that we recommend to our clients because the benefits far outweigh the negatives.
Perfect. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. And everyone else, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.